Once the dog had a warm and loving home. His name was Max, a spirited German shepherd with a glossy coat and bright eyes that sparkled with affection. He was the pride of his owner, a young man named Mark, who adored him as much as he would a family member. Max had toys, a cozy bed, and all the treats he could ever want. His days were filled with joyful play and his nights with peaceful slumber, never knowing a world outside his home's safe confines. But one fateful day, Max's life took a sudden, dark turn. But the bite, though minor, startled Mark. Fear and misunderstanding clouded his judgment, and he began to see Max as a potential threat. The bond they once shared started to fray, and soon, Mark made a decision that would change Max's life forever. It was an ordinary afternoon when Max, in a moment of excitement, accidentally bit Mark's arm. It wasn't a vicious attack, just an innocent mistake during a rough play session. Max was taken to a remote area, far from the home he knew and loved. The once-loved dog was now abandoned, left to fend for himself in an unfamiliar world. Max wandered the streets, confused and heartbroken, searching for his owner. Days turned into weeks, and Max became a shadow of his former self, hungry, dirty, and increasingly desperate. Mark, feeling he had no choice, left Max there, driving away without looking back. Max, desperate and starving, accepted the food cautiously. Jake was used to the harshness of life, but something about the sound of Max's cry tugged at his heart. He approached the shivering dog slowly, offering a piece of bread from his meager dinner. A bond was formed that night, one of mutual need and understanding. One night, as Max curled up in an alley to escape the rain, his soft whimpering caught the attention of Jake, a homeless man who had been wandering the streets for years. Jake had always been alone, having lost everything due to a series of unfortunate events. The two became inseparable, traveling the city together, sharing what little they had. Jake found comfort in Max's presence, and for the first time in years, he felt a spark of hope. Max, too, began to trust again, sensing Jake's kindness and love. He never thought he would have a companion again, but Max quickly became his constant shadow. Life on the streets was tough, but with Max by his side, Jake found the strength to keep going. But Jake refused to give up. They faced many challenges, cold nights, hunger, and the disdain of others who looked down on them. He knew he had to take care of Max, just as Max had taken care of him. They were a team, and together they could survive anything. One day, while sitting outside a cafe, a man noticed Max and approached Jake. The man, a wealthy businessman, was impressed by Max's loyalty and intelligence. He offered Jake a job at his company, taking care of the office premises in exchange for food, shelter, and a small wage. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Jake accepted the offer, knowing it was a chance to improve their lives. With the job came a small room where Jake and Max could stay. Jake was thankful for the opportunity and dedicated himself to his work, always with Max by his side. Before heading to work each day, Jake made sure to clean himself up, taking extra care to look his best. Max quickly became a favorite among the employees, who often brought him treats and played with him during their breaks. It was nothing fancy, but it was warm and dry, a significant improvement from the streets. He started saving a little money, dreaming of a better future for himself and Max. The stability of having a job and a place to stay brought him a sense of peace he hadn't felt in a long time. Max, too, thrived in this new environment, his coat shining with health and his eyes bright with happiness. As Jake settled into his new life, he began to regain some of the confidence he had lost over the years. Just as things were starting to look up, Jake faced a new challenge. But there was a problem. Sarah wasn't a dog person. She was polite to Max, but made it clear that she didn't like the idea of having a dog in her life. This put Jake in a difficult position, as he couldn't imagine a life without Max. He met Sarah, a kind and beautiful woman who worked at the office. They quickly became friends, and Jake found himself developing feelings for her. Jake's feelings for Sarah grew, but so did his concern about her attitude toward Max. However, Sarah remained distant, often making excuses to avoid spending time with Max. He didn't want to lose Sarah, but he couldn't betray Max, who had been his loyal companion through thick and thin. He tried to introduce them more, hoping Sarah would see the wonderful dog he knew. Jake was torn. One evening, Sarah gave Jake an ultimatum. If their relationship was to go any further, Max couldn't be part of the picture. Jake was devastated. He knew how much he cared for Sarah, but he also knew he couldn't abandon Max. After a sleepless night, he made the difficult decision to break things off with Sarah. He couldn't let go of the dog who had saved him, not for anything or anyone. She was upset, unable to understand why Jake would choose a dog over her. But Jake explained that Max was more than just a pet. He was family. Though it broke his heart, he said goodbye to Sarah, knowing it was the right thing to do. Max, sensing Jake's sadness, stayed close, offering silent comfort, telling Sarah his decision was one of the hardest things Jake had ever done. After parting ways with Sarah, Jake threw himself into his work and caring for Max. He was sad, but he didn't regret his decision. Max was by his side, always loyal and loving, reminding Jake that he had made the right choice. Slowly, Jake began to heal, finding solace in the simple joys of life with Max. Jake's dedication at work didn't go unnoticed. The businessman who had given him the job was impressed by his work ethic and offered him a promotion, this time with a better salary and more responsibilities. With the extra money, he was able to buy better food and supplies for Max, and even save a little for the future. Jake offered to help, and with a few gentle commands, he had the dog sitting calmly. The man, amazed by Jake's skill, revealed that he was a renowned dog trainer looking for a new assistant. He offered Jake a job on the spot, impressed by his natural talent with dogs. One day, while walking Max in the park, Jake noticed a man struggling to control his unruly dog. Jake accepted the offer and started working as a dog trainer's assistant. Jake's reputation blossomed, and before long, he was receiving offers to train dogs for affluent clients across the city. Because of the deep love for dogs that he developed through his bond with Max, Jake decided to leave his corporate job to pursue his passion full-time. He quickly realized that he had a natural talent for understanding and training dogs. Max often accompanied him to work, soothing the other dogs and setting an example. He used his savings to rent a small space and buy the necessary equipment. Max was by his side every step of the way, serving as the company's unofficial mascot. The business quickly became a success, with clients lining up for Jake's services. Jake's life had completely turned around, and it was all thanks to Max. A few months later, with the dog training business booming, Jake decided to start his own company. One day, while walking Max through the city, Jake ran into Mark, Max's former owner. Mark was shocked to see Max looking so healthy and happy. He apologized profusely for abandoning him, explaining that he had been going through a difficult time back then. Jake listened quietly, understanding the pain in Mark's voice. He forgave him, knowing that holding on to anger wouldn't help anyone. After their meeting, Mark and Jake began to see each other regularly. Mark was eager to make amends and started helping out at Jake's dog training business. He grew close to Max again, and over time, the three of them formed a new kind of family. Mark found a new purpose in helping others, inspired by Jake's kindness and determination. The bond between Jake, Max, and Mark grew stronger each day. They supported each other through life's challenges, and their friendship became a source of strength for all of them. The pain of his past was finally healing, replaced by the joy of his new life. Max, who had once been abandoned, now had two people who loved and cared for him deeply. One morning, while at a dog park, Jake noticed a woman struggling with her unruly puppy. The woman, Emma, was impressed and thanked Jake for his help. They struck up a conversation, and Jake felt an immediate connection with her. Emma was kind, funny, and genuinely loved dogs. He offered to help, and after a few minutes of working with the pup, it was sitting calmly at her feet. Slowly, Jake let his guard down and allowed himself to open up to Emma. Jake found himself falling for her, but he was hesitant to get too close, still wary of his experience with Sarah. However, Emma's love for her puppy reassured Jake that she understood his bond with Max. Jake and Emma began spending more time together, going on walks with their dogs and sharing stories about their lives. As Jake and Emma's friendship deepened, it became clear that there was something more between them. They started dating, and Emma quickly became a big part of Jake and Max's life. Unlike Sarah, Emma embraced Max, often spoiling him with treats and affection. For the first time, Jake felt that he had found someone who could love both him and Max equally. Despite their happiness, Jake couldn't shake the fear that something would go wrong. He was afraid that Emma might change her mind about Max, or that their relationship would fall apart like it did with Sarah. She even helped out at Jake's dog training business, quickly becoming an invaluable partner. But Emma proved him wrong at every turn, showing nothing but love and support for both Jake and Max. Over time, Jake realized that Emma was the one he had been waiting for. Emma moved in with Jake, and they began planning their future together. Max, once a lonely and abandoned dog, now had a loving home filled with warmth and happiness. She accepted Max as part of their life, and the three of them became a tight-knit family. She said yes, tears of joy streaming down her face. Max barked happily, as if giving his approval. It was a perfect moment, one that Jake had never imagined he would experience. His life had taken so many unexpected turns, but he was grateful for every step that had led him to this point. One afternoon, while walking through the park where they first met, Jake got down on one knee and proposed to Emma. Max had a special role as the ring bearer, proudly carrying the rings down the aisle. It was a day filled with love, laughter, and joy. Jake couldn't believe how far he had come, from a homeless man with nothing to a successful business owner with a beautiful wife and a loyal dog by his side. Jake and Emma's wedding was a small, intimate affair, with close friends and family in attendance. The sight of Max gently nuzzling Lily filled Jake's heart with happiness. They named her Lily, and from the moment she was born, Max was by her side, watching over her like a protective older brother. Max had come so far from his days of being unloved and alone, and now he was part of a family that adored him. A few years after the wedding, Jake and Emma welcomed a baby girl into their lives. With the arrival of Lily, life became even more joyful. He was always gentle and patient with Lily, and she adored him in return. Jake often marveled at how much their lives had changed, and how it was all thanks to a chance encounter with a lonely dog. Jake and Emma found themselves busier than ever, but they cherished every moment. Max, too, seemed to thrive in his role as a big brother. As the years went by, Max began to slow down. His muzzle turned gray, and he didn't have as much energy as he used to. But he was still the same loyal and loving dog he had always been. Jake and Emma made sure Max's golden years were filled with comfort and love. He had a warm bed, plenty of treats, and all the affection he could ever want. One day, Max passed away peacefully in his sleep. Jake was heartbroken, but he was also grateful for the years they had shared together. Max had been more than just a pet. He had been a friend, a protector, and a symbol of hope. Jake and Emma held a small memorial for Max in the park where they first met, remembering all the joy he had brought into their lives. Even after Max was gone, his legacy lived on. Jake often shared Max's story with others, hoping to inspire them to never give up, no matter how difficult life might seem. Max had taught Jake that love and loyalty could change everything, and that was a lesson he would carry with him forever. Jake's dog training business continued to thrive, and many of his clients knew the story of how it all began with a lonely dog and a homeless man. And it had all started with Max, a dog who had once been unloved and alone. He had gone through so much, but every challenge had led him to where he was now, a loving husband, a proud father, and a successful business owner. Jake knew he would always carry Max's memory in his heart, a reminder of the power of love and second chances. As Jake looked back on his life, he couldn't help but feel overwhelmed with gratitude. Jake and Emma wanted to honor Max's memory in a meaningful way. They decided to build a dog shelter, a place where dogs like Max could find the love and care they deserved. They poured their hearts into the project, ensuring that the shelter would provide a safe haven for abandoned and neglected dogs. The process of building the shelter was a labor of love. Jake and Emma worked tirelessly, from designing the layout to fundraising and coordinating with volunteers. They wanted to create a space that was not only functional, but also welcoming and comforting for the dogs. Their goal was to make sure that every dog who came through their doors would feel valued and loved. The shelter quickly became a beacon of hope for dogs in need. They worked to find loving homes for the dogs and provided ongoing care and support to ensure their well-being. Max's legacy lived on in every dog that found a new beginning at the shelter. Jake and Emma continued to run the shelter with the same dedication and compassion that Max had inspired in them. As the years went by, the shelter grew and expanded, touching the lives of countless dogs and their new families. Jake and Emma frequently shared Max's story with visitors, highlighting the impact he had on their lives and the shelter's mission. The shelter became a symbol of hope and redemption, helping to change the lives of dogs and people alike. Looking back on their journey, Jake and Emma felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They had transformed their grief into a positive force for change, honoring Max's memory by making a difference in the world. The shelter was a testament to their love for Max and their commitment to helping other dogs in need. Even though Max was gone, Jake felt that their bond would last forever. Jake had learned that even in the darkest of times, there was always a chance for happiness and healing. And that lesson, taught to him by a dog who had once been unloved and alone, was one he would carry with him for the rest of his life. Every time he looked at Hope, he was reminded of the love and loyalty that Max had shown him,